It's me again with random things I do. This is definitely random. It's about 2 o'clock in the morning. And I was thinking about the past. Who can remember? How far back can you remember in your life? You know, nowadays I can remember very clearly years and years ago. It's yesterday and today I have trouble with. But I can remember back when I was 4 years old. Well, first of all, let me tell you, from the day I was born till I was about 10 years old, my grandparents raised me. Little coal mine town area. And I was thinking just how simple things were back then. Well, one of the things I can remember really age-wise was about 4 years old. We were up there in them mountains, and it was Christmas. And we had a Christmas tree sitting over in the corner with no packages at all under it. And it snowed. I mean, it was deep. We had a lot of snow. I just remember I could have probably hid in it. Dug tunnels. It snowed. Well, I was about 4 years old, and we had a lady live next door back then, and her and her husband, and her, Miss Noel. Miss Noel, was a sweet soul. Miss Noel, she spoiled me for her, you know. She was really sweet. I remember when we lost her. But it was Christmas time, and I was 4 years old. I don't want to get started on Miss Noel. Miss Noel was, like I said, she was part of my life. Anyway, no Christmas presents. Back in those days, we opened our presents on Christmas Eve night. And went to bed. Didn't get to play with them, toys or nothing. Get to see them, get all excited, and go to bed. Get up in the morning and play with them. Well, that year there was no presents under the tree at all. Like, nothing. Zero. And late that night, the phone rang. And it was Miss Noel. Miss Noel said Santa Claus had stopped at her house because the snow was so deep and had to leave all the presents over there because he couldn't make it over to our house. Now, 4 years old, I just sucked that right on in. You know, I believed every bit of it. So, excuse me. Here went my mama and myself, tromping up and over to Miss Noel's house. That was the year I got my wagon. I still got that wagon today. That wagon, I've pulled my grandkids in that wagon. That wagon's still just as good as it ever was. And well, we go to Miss Noel's, and there's this wagon that's just packed full of stuff. I mean, there's stuff stacked on top of stuff. They went and left all that stuff over there to trick me over at Miss Noel's house. Well, anyway, we had to get it home now. Here goes my mama and myself, and we're pulling this trying to pull this wagon in the snow. We were actually just sliding across the top of it. We'd have actually done better with no wheels on it. More like a sled. But we made it home. We tromped through that snow. I remember getting stuck a few times. And That wagon's been around. It's been through a lot. I used to pull potatoes out of the garden, load that wagon down with potatoes, and my first calluses on my hand was that I can remember because pulling potatoes with that wagon. And I remember that because my mama fussed at my papa because I had calluses on my hands and my hands looked to was in rough shape from pulling that wagon. And I can still hear papa, good for him. And it probably was. But I can remember that far back. Then I think about how simple and easy life was back then. Oh, don't get me wrong. I know. Looking back, we wasn't rich and we struggled, but we never went without eating. Always food on the table. All the canning we did and everything, and the old dairy was just full of food. I mean, it was canned food everywhere, and the whole floor of the thing would just be covered with potatoes. That's where I'd pull them potatoes in there and dump them, go back and get it. They have them dug up, and we just load them, pull them out of there. Me and my, it was fun. And I can remember little bitty tiny salt shakers. You remember them little bitty salt shakers? If you're my age, you might remember them. Little bitty tiny things. Had a little lady with a little umbrella on it, and little bitty tiny round salt shakers, about that big. I used to take them and sit out there. I can still remember sitting out there eating a tomato, using them little salt shakers because you always had one in your pocket. Yep. And I can still see my papa walking by going, you keep on eating it, we won't have nothing to can. It's good old days. And little town, we didn't really live in town, but the little area right in there in the town, the closest town and everything. I don't remember how old I was, but it was, I can remember our phone number was just 3 digits. For local calls around, you could pick up the phone, dial 3 digits, and call your neighbor if they had a phone. We had a phone. And it was a 2-party phone. A lady up on the mountain across from us, she had a phone, and we had to share a line with her. And boy, she stayed on the phone all the time. I mean, you pick up the phone and make a phone call, and you hang it up, come back later and try again. I can remember a few times my mama telling her, would you please share the phone line? I need to make a phone call. Yeah. The phone, and by the way, was hanging on the wall. I was watching another YouTube channel today talking about telephones, and I put a comment on there as didn't have to worry about losing the phone. Oh, there it is. It's hanging on the wall. And, well, let's see. There's so many things I can remember. I remember, I can remember when Kennedy got killed, President Kennedy. I remember we got a phone call. Somebody says, turn on Walter Cronkite. Yep. You gotta hear what's going on. And sure enough, it was about John F. Kennedy being assassinated, riding in a convertible in Texas. Yeah, I remember that like it was yesterday. It's funny how seems like yesterday. Well, talking about TVs, we didn't worry about how big our TV was. We were just glad to have one. And we had one in the picture tube. The picture that you're looking at there was round. And it had 2 big knobs on it and an on and off switch. That's all it had. No remote control. You got your behind parts up and went over and turned the channel. The problem is you didn't do that very often because up there where we lived at, there wasn't but 2 channels we could get. Oh, I'm sure some of them big cities might have had 3 or 4 channels, but up there in the mountains, we had 2 channels is all we could get. And what was funny was there was this cable runs all the way into the house. It was a flat, 2 wires running through it. And he ran to the back of the TV, put some rabbit clippers on it, and plug it on the back of the TV to pick up the channels off the antenna. And I can remember me and Papa, we like to watch westerns, and I like to watch my Saturday cartoons. And there wasn't a lot of TV watching going on in those days, but we had our Saturday morning cartoons, and occasional western. Now, the catch to it was, Mama, she wanted to watch Lawrence Welk. And I used to like to watch them Bubbles come down, too, when it first came on, the Lawrence Welk show. Red Skelton was a good one. That was always fun to watch. But, the TV shows we watched, I could probably name on, without running out of fingers, that we ever watched. Probably one hand, matter of fact. The old TV had tubes in it. And we had this little country store called Shula Milton's. Now, Shula Milton's store, he had everything. I'm talking about you could go there if you needed a screw, if you needed a bolt, a washer, if you needed lumber, if you needed a loaf of bread, if you needed a tube for your TV. And he had this testing machine. You could push your bulbs down in it, and there was all kinds of little holes all in it for different size tubes would fit in it, And you'd find the one for the tube you were wanting to check, see if it was good or not. Our TV'd break down every once in a while. And Papa, he'd pull the back off of it and go, I think it's that tube right there. Anyway, he said, it might be that and over there too, so we'll just take both of these. And I always look forward to going to Shula Milton's, but we didn't go to run over to the gas station every day, we just once in a blue moon. Because when we went to Shula Milton's, see, I was spoiled. And I knew if I was going to Papa, we were going to Shula Milton's, I was going to get me a chocolate ice cream cone. Because he had dip ice cream too. Well, we'd go there and he'd check them tubes out and he'd discover which one was bad. And he'd get another tube from Shula. And I'd get my chocolate ice cream cone. Well, one time I got some bad chocolate ice cream. And it made me sick. I never liked chocolate ice cream after that. I mean, I didn't care for it anymore. I remember years I didn't eat no chocolate. I'd have my vanilla. And, we come back and fix that TV. Now, before I get off of the TV, let me tell you. That antenna I was talking about with that cable come through with the 2 wires that had the rabbit clips on it. The catch to it was the channel me and Papa watched. It was on the one channel, and Lawrence Welk, Mama never couldn't miss, came on once a week, was on the other channel. Now the problem with that is the antenna had to go out there and you had to turn the antenna till you got good reception for that channel. And it didn't matter what the weather was. Papa never complained. He'd go out there and turn that antenna, and Mama would stand there at the window and holler out back at him, "A little more, Sherman." His name was Sherman. Her name was Othie. Turn it a little more. Hold it right there. And he had a stick he'd stick down in the pipe that the pole set in to hold it in place, keep the wind from moving it. And he'd start to walk away. And she'd go, oh, you walked away. It started messing up. It'll come in better than that. Turn it just a hair more. He'd turn around, go back, turn it a little more. I can't never ever remember him complaining about going out there turning that antenna. Inside, I think he probably thought, wish I didn't have to do this every time. Because after she watched her show, we'd always have to turn that antenna back and get it on our channel again. Well, we were at this man's house and one day, and this man was he was moving away, and Papa said, we're gonna have to get your antenna down. He was helping him pack up, load up and stuff. You know, back then people went and helped the neighbors move and everything else. I mean, it was nothing to run down there and help them in their garden or help them if they were moving or whatever had to be done. Well, he goes, I'm going to leave that here. I'm not going to take that with me. I can still see my papa's brain working. I mean, I was standing there looking at him, looking up at him. He says, well, if you're going to leave it, do you mind if I have it? He said, no, Sherman, if you want that antenna, you can have that antenna. So we finished helping him pack his little truck up and stuff. And people didn't have a lot of possessions. Got it all in one truckload, you know. And off he went. And Papa said, we're going to get this pole and we're going to get this antenna. I took that antenna down. We carried that thing home. I thought, well, Papa's already got an antenna. He went out there and he put a pipe in the ground to put that pole in so he'd be able to turn it in it. Smart man. On the way home, he stopped by Shula's and got another pair of those clips and a roll-on, so another roll-on, a wire. And to the house we went. He put that thing in the ground, I don't know, so many feet away from that other antenna, and he run a second cable right to the back of the TV with those alligator clips on it. And he fixed one antenna for one channel and the other one for the other channel. And Papa didn't go out and turn the antenna no more after that. It kind of brought it into that era. He just went to the back of the TV and changed the clips. That was a smart man. He cut that out right quick. Yeah. There was good times. Our schoolhouse was all, from kindergarten through high school was all in one place. There wasn't one school here and one school there. It was all right there. And I can remember the circus coming to the school. Yeah. There's a lot of stuff, And I can remember sitting in front of that TV and watching first man go to the moon. History. Well, it should be. Nowadays, it's conspiracy of some sort. It's all fake news. Man didn't go to the moon. Nah. That was all done on a stage. That's what they say. But I'm telling you, man went to the moon. Well, I've done talked on here for 20 minutes, and I've only covered probably just a few years of little things. Oh yeah, we'd go to town, which was seemed like a good little ride, but it wasn't really that far. It was just the mountains at the time. See, a lot of people live there now probably don't even remember the old roads that come in there, because now they're paved roads, and they're 4 lanes and everything else. And back in the day, it wasn't, so it took a little longer. But we go to town sometimes once a month, maybe twice. We'll go to the Piggly Wiggly, our grocery store. The little town was all right there. You had the Western Auto. That's where my wagon came from. I found out later. I've got my first baseball glove still today. Came from Western Auto. And I can't remember, but I got some stuff that I remember from the Sears catalog. And every once in a while, Mama would get to order something out of the Sears catalog, and I get to pick a little something. But I can't remember what the items were back then, what it was. But, we had one doctor's office right across the street from the Piggly Wiggly, which was right across the street across the other street to the Western Auto, and then the Huff Cook Funeral Home was the next, right around the corner. A little coal mine town, not a whole lot there. And I remember they were friends with the people at the funeral home, and they had a little boy. And they'd go up there and visit and play cards and stuff. And before I was old enough to play cards with them, me and Papa used to team up on them. Boy, I'm telling you, we'd play rook. Me and Papa, we'd team up on them. We'd win them all. We'd beat them all the time. But this little boy, I can't remember his name, but we'd go play around the funeral home. We even played in the caskets even. And we opened one up one time. That was down in the thing there, and there was a body in there. We quit playing in the caskets after that. But we had one doctor's office, and that doctor's office was in the basement of the bank. I remember when I was a little boy, and I remember starting school and having to have some shots. And, excuse me. And, it was you go down the steps into the basement of the bank, and it was like a little skinny long room with some chairs on each side, and there was to be a section there wasn't no chairs, and the window there where the lady would take, the receptionist would be. And she was the nurse too. She was also the nurse at the school. And once in a while I can remember her name, but I can't remember it right now. But she was good for everybody, knew everybody. But there was one door that went into the back where the doctor would see you at. And I was sitting back there right at that door with my mama. And I didn't want no shot. Now, I want to tell you, I didn't want these shots. You know, 5.5, something like that, going on, getting ready to go in first grade. I was 6 years old. And the nurse came to the door and, "Come on, Dean." I stood up and I took off running. I run that little narrow room right out the door and right up the steps and right back up there and down the street I was gone. Papa was right behind me. Grabbed me by the collar. I made it out the door. Oh, I made it down out to the sidewalk out there around from the bank. He's toting me back in there. Well, yeah, I had to get those shots anyway. And, yeah. Well, look, I rambled on here long enough for tonight. I'll do this again, but I'll try not to repeat myself as I think of some more stuff. Because there's definitely a lot more I can remember. It just ain't coming to me right now, all of it. But that's just some of the highlights. Probably up until about the first grade anyway. But, it's probably about 2:30 now, so in the morning. So I woke up and couldn't go back to sleep. So I said a little prayer, and I thought about all my friends out there, and I was hoping they were getting a good night's sleep, thanking the Lord for it. Well, y'all have a wonderful morning when you get up. We'll do this again real soon. Random things I do. God bless. We'll see you.